Death does not arrive with warning signs, final notifications, or a countdown you can see. It arrives while plans are unfinished, while messages remain unread, while promises are still postponed. 1 second you belong to the world, and the next, the world releases you completely. In Islam, death is not a fade to black. It is the sharp moment when reality tears through illusion, and the soul realizes there is no return to what it once called life. Everything you delayed suddenly demands payment, and everything you ignored suddenly speaks. This is the moment every soul was warned about, yet almost no one prepares for properly. Before we go deeper, take 1 second and tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. And if you want content that opens the eyes before it's too late, subscribe to this channel now so you don't miss what comes next. Islam teaches that death is not random, accidental, or early. It happens at the exact second Allah has written, even if the entire world tried to delay it. When that moment arrives, the soul begins to detach from everything it loved, relied on, and trusted. The body that was protected, fed, trained, and decorated for years suddenly becomes heavy and unfamiliar. The tongue loses control, the limbs fall silent, and the heartbeat that once defined existence no longer has authority. Yet the soul does not sleep. It awakens. Awareness sharpens, perception expands, and the truth becomes clearer than it ever was during life. In that instant, the world shrinks. Family, wealth, reputation, unfinished goals, all retreat to a distance the soul cannot reach anymore. Regret begins not because pain is felt, but because certainty arrives. Certainty that excuses are over. Certainty that intentions without action are empty. Certainty that time was the greatest gift and the most wasted resource. Islam describes this moment as the collapse of delay, where the soul understands that what it believed could wait never had permission to wait. As the separation deepens, angels descend, unseen by those still alive, but undeniable to the soul itself. Their presence carries a weight that cannot be compared to anything in this world. For the believer who lived with remembrance, repentance, and humility, the angels arrive with calm authority, greeting the soul with words of peace, mercy, and reassurance. The soul is invited to leave gently, slipping from the body like a drop of water leaving a vessel, carrying a scent more beautiful than anything known on earth. Fear dissolves, replaced by relief, because the soul recognizes where it is being taken. But for the soul that denied, delayed, or lived as if accountability would never come, the experience is entirely different. The angels do not come with comfort, but with firmness. The soul clings desperately to the body, realizing too late that what it invested its life in cannot protect it now. Islam describes this extraction as painful and forceful, not because Allah is unjust, but because the soul resists the truth it spent a lifetime avoiding. Panic rises, not from physical pain, but from recognition. Recognition that the warnings were real and the return is impossible. In this moment, belief is no longer something spoken or debated. Faith is no longer an idea or identity. It is the state of the soul itself. The soul now sees angels as clearly as the sun, hears realities it once doubted, and understands that the unseen world was never unseen at all. It was simply ignored. The door of action closes quietly, and the door of consequences opens without resistance. What remains is not what the soul wished it had done, but what it actually sent forward. This is why Islam does not describe death as an ending, but as a crossing from assumption into certainty, from distraction into clarity, from hope without effort into truth without delay. The soul leaves behind the temporary shelter of the body and steps into a journey it was warned about in every prayer, every verse, and every reminder. A journey that begins the moment the world lets go and never gives you back. After the soul has been taken, it does not drift aimlessly or fall into nothingness. Islam teaches that the soul enters a realm that exists right now, hidden from the eyes of the living, a realm called Barzakh. This is not the end of the journey, but the first true residence of the afterlife. Time here no longer behaves as it did in the world. Days and nights lose their meaning, and the soul becomes aware in a way it never was before. The grave is not just soil and silence. It is an environment prepared specifically for the soul that enters it. For some souls, Barzakh opens as a place of ease. The grave expands beyond imagination, filled with light, comfort, and a calm that the world could never provide. Peace settles not because the soul earned perfection, but because it carried sincerity, repentance, and reliance on Allah. The soul rests knowing it answered the call of faith while time still existed. But for other souls, the grave tightens, pressing with a weight that mirrors the pressure of neglected truth. Darkness replaces distraction, and isolation replaces the noise the soul once used to escape reflection. In Barzakh, nothing distracts the soul anymore. There are no conversations, no entertainment, no deadlines to chase. The soul is left alone with its reality, fully aware, fully conscious, and fully unable to escape itself. What once felt small now feels heavy, and what once felt urgent now feels meaningless. The soul understands that the grave is not punishing by itself. It only reveals what was carried inside all along. Soon after burial, a moment arrives that strips away all remaining illusions. Angels come, not to debate, not to accuse, but to question. Their presence alone makes deception impossible. The soul is asked who its Lord is, what way of life it followed, and who it truly believed was sent with the truth. These questions are simple in wording, but immense in weight, because they cannot be answered with memorization, culture, or borrowed belief. For the soul that lived with awareness of Allah, the answers flow naturally, not because the soul is fearless, but because truth was practiced daily, even when it was difficult. The soul speaks with certainty, not confidence in itself, but reliance on what it lived by. The grave responds with expansion, light, and reassurance, as if recognizing a familiar presence. But for the soul that postponed faith, lived carelessly, or relied on labels instead of sincerity, the tongue hesitates. Confusion replaces certainty, and silence replaces clarity. The soul knows the answers, yet cannot produce them, because truth was never allowed to sink deep enough. Islam teaches that this is not injustice, it is accuracy. The soul speaks only what it truly carried, not what it claimed. In that moment, the soul realizes something terrifyingly clear. The test was never about knowledge alone, but about alignment, about whether belief shaped choices, habits, priorities, and restraint. The questioning ends quickly, but its impact lasts as long as the soul remains in Barzakh. Comfort or constriction follows, not as punishment alone, but as a truthful response to a life already lived. Barzakh becomes a waiting place filled with awareness of what was done, what was wasted, and what could never be recovered. The soul now understands that the most dangerous thing in life was not hardship, but delay. Delay in repentance, delay in sincerity, delay in turning back while the door was open. Here, the soul waits, not sleeping, not dreaming, but knowing, remembering, and facing the reality it once believed was far away. In this realm, actions are no longer memories or records written on pages. They become realities that surround the soul. Islam teaches that deeds do not vanish after death. They transform. What the soul once performed quietly, publicly, sincerely, or carelessly now takes shape in ways the soul cannot ignore. Prayer may appear as light that pushes back darkness. Charity may become shade and protection. Words of remembrance may return as companionship in isolation. Every sincere act done for Allah alone arrives with purpose, filling the emptiness of Barzakh with meaning and relief. But deeds done without sincerity also arrive. Neglect, arrogance, dishonesty, oppression, and hidden sins do not stay hidden anymore. They take form as weight, fear, and disturbance. The soul begins to understand that nothing was ever truly private. What was done in secret followed the soul more closely than what was done in public. Regret deepens, not because punishment has reached its peak, but because clarity has. In this stage, the soul recognizes a painful truth. The smallest deeds carried the greatest consequences. A missed prayer now feels heavier than a missed opportunity ever did in life. A single act of mercy now feels more valuable than years of worldly effort. The soul realizes it underestimated the power of consistency and overestimated the importance of distraction. Here, intentions are weighed with precision, and excuses dissolve completely. Some souls find comfort as their deeds surround them like loyal companions. The grave feels less lonely because the soul invested in what lasted beyond death. Other souls experience isolation unlike anything known before. No one else carries their burden, no voice defends them, and no delay softens the outcome. The soul understands now that it was never lacking time. It was lacking urgency. As this awareness settles, something even more powerful occurs. The soul is shown a glimpse of what awaits it in the final destination. This is not Judgment Day, but a preview that reshapes everything the soul feels. For the righteous, a door opens toward paradise. Light pours through, carrying peace, fragrance, and promise. Hope replaces fear, and waiting becomes anticipation. For others, a door opens toward punishment. The soul senses heat, regret, and loss long before the final judgment arrives. Fear intensifies, not because the soul is surprised, but because it recognizes what it traded eternity for. This glimpse is enough to make time stretch unbearably long. Moments feel endless, and awareness never fades. Islam teaches that this preview is a mercy and a warning at the same time. Mercy for those who find reassurance, and a warning for those who realize too late what truly mattered. The soul now waits with certainty instead of doubt. No debates remain, no theories survive, and no denial offers comfort. The soul knows exactly what it is waiting for, and exactly why. Here, the silence teaches more than a lifetime of reminders ever could. The soul understands that success was never measured by visibility, applause, or accumulation. It was measured by obedience when no one was watching, sincerity when no reward was immediate. This awareness does not leave the soul. It stays, deepening with every moment of waiting, shaping the experience of Barzakh into either a peaceful rest or a heavy, conscious pause before the day when everything will finally be revealed. Time no longer feels like movement here. The soul waits, not asleep and not distracted, but fully conscious, fully aware, existing in a state where anticipation never fades. Islam teaches that this waiting continues until the moment the trumpet is blown, a sound so overwhelming that it shatters the stillness of all creation. The soul understands now that history is moving toward a single appointment that cannot be delayed or avoided. Every soul, from the first human to the last, will rise again. The waiting soul reflects without interruption, replaying choices with perfect clarity, seeing moments where repentance could have changed everything, moments where sincerity could have outweighed years of neglect. There is no boredom in this waiting, only awareness. Awareness of Allah's justice, awareness of His mercy, awareness that nothing was ever overlooked. For some souls, this waiting is peaceful, almost restful, because hope fills the space where fear once lived. For others, the waiting is heavy, because they now understand that the world they fought so hard to build was never the destination. Everything that once felt urgent now feels distant, and everything that once felt optional now feels essential. In this state, the soul realizes that the greatest deception of life was not suffering or hardship, but distraction. Distraction that made remembrance feel secondary, obedience feel inconvenient, and repentance feel postponable. The soul sees clearly that life was not short because of time, but because of priorities. Islam teaches that the soul wishes to return not to enjoy more, but to correct more, to pray one more sincere prayer, to seek forgiveness without delay, to act without needing recognition. But the door of return remains firmly closed. The waiting continues, carrying lessons that can no longer be applied by the soul itself, only by those still alive. This is why the unseen world presses so heavily against the heart when truth is remembered, because the souls waiting already know what the living still argue about, and this is where the message turns outward, toward those who still breathe. Islam does not reveal the afterlife to paralyze the heart with fear, but to awaken it before fear becomes unavoidable. Every heartbeat is an extension of mercy. Every delay in death is an opportunity, not a guarantee. The soul's journey after death is fixed, detailed, and inevitable, but what determines its experience is being written right now by the living. Faith is not meant to be perfect, but it is meant to be real. Repentance is not meant to be rare, but constant. Obedience is not meant to be easy, but sincere. The soul that finds peace later is the soul that chose honesty now. The reminder is simple, but its weight is immense. The world will let go of everyone. Wealth will stay behind. Names will fade. Voices will be replaced. But deeds will rise with the soul and speak without distortion. Islam teaches that the smartest person is not the one who avoids death, but the one who prepares for it quietly, consistently, and sincerely. The journey after death does not begin in the grave. It begins in the choices made while still alive, and every moment that passes is either carrying the soul closer to peace or closer to regret. The question is no longer whether this journey is real, but whether the heart will respond while it still has the chance.